Hi, my name is Joe Cernik. I'm a member of the faculty here at Lindenwood University, and I'd like to welcome you to Books and Strikes. Books and Strikes is a show where we discuss books on baseball. Sometimes we even take the cameras out on the road to do various events that are going on around the St. Louis area. Today we are talking with Eric Click, Dr. Eric Click. Eric, and the reason I'm saying doctor is because he used to be an undergraduate student of mine, then went on and got a Ph.D. from University of Texas, and we're discussing his doctorate dissertation, which is called The Impact of the Growth Machine on Public Financing of Professional Sports Facilities, the Case of the St. Louis Cardinals. We've actually done a show on this before, but there was a lot of things in his dissertation we did not cover, so we want to do that. And so Eric is on the faculty at Polk State College, which is in Florida, and there he's been getting off a bachelor's program off the ground in public administration. So thank you for joining us, Eric. Now, some of the things we didn't cover last time, because it's probably useful to continue to talk. I know I've gone through your dissertation, and one of the things I think people would just like to know, because it's broader than just the stadium, is if you're looking at the whole concept of the Cardinal Baseball Village, you think it's got to get off the ground, and what type of financial arrangements you look at for that?
Well, at last I looked, the ballpark village has still been tabled, essentially by the Missouri Development Finance Board. Now, the Board of Aldermen that very much was instrumental in also approving the actual stadium financing has said, yes, it's a go. And originally with Ballpark Village, the big promotion of that was there was going to be no subsidies on that. Now, if it does go through, they're looking at a minimum of $100 million in subsidies, additional subsidies for the Ballpark Village. And like I said, right now the Missouri Development Finance Board has tabled that up in Jeff City. And really for the foreseeable future, it's unlikely that it's going to go through in the current economic climate. Now again though, if it does go through up in the Missouri Development Finance Board, that's not voted on directly by the popular vote. Again, that's something that they do and then they pass it. And that has been a lot of the debate over the actual stadium itself, is that it's the representative versus direct democracy. And they avoided a lot of the public referendum by going through the Board of Aldermen and then the Missouri Development Finance Board, which is the state portion of the economic development tool.
Now, the Missouri Economic Development Board, that's for the state of Missouri.
Correct.
And they would, what, approve bonds, or exactly what are they going to approve?
Well, it should be a number of things. It would probably be some sort of long-term loan, like a bond. That was also done for the stadium. But more likely it would be tax incentives of some sort. Brownfield tax incentives. You could also get into infrastructure. A large amount of the money that's normally given in these sort of projects is infrastructure based. So you could move some roads, you could also build some public transit or something along those lines, maybe water and sewage. So that's still being decided, but the package itself would be around $100 million or so.
And the Board of Aldermen in the city of St. Louis, what exactly would they be looking at putting city money in? Yes,
there would be some combination of city money, and again, I think that's up for debate. The county would not be, I don't think, dramatically involved in this percentage, but I would have to take a look at that specific package. There's been a number of actual proposals over the last 4 to 5 years on this, and like I said, the last one that got approved was around March or February, and it's been tabled pretty much ever since up in the Missouri Development Finance Board.
So we would be looking at probably a combination of city money, state money,
and maybe a little county money.
And a little county money, and then trying to figure out what percentage is coming from the Cardinals themselves, if any.
Right. And the Cardinals would probably put in about $200 to $300 million. So it would probably be similar to the stadium deal, and I would say that probably about anywhere from about 20 to 25% of the funding would come then from the public, and the rest of it would probably be private.
So about 75% private, about 25% public, more or less.
And it's hard to say though too until the actual numbers shake out, and then also what's going to actually be built, because like in the past with Ballpark Village, originally there was going to be a residential component, and now there's no longer a residential component. And if anyone's familiar with the housing market down in St. Louis, you realize right now you can't sell the lofts that are in place. And actually there was a apartment complex right across from the stadium, couples station, that a lot of people forget about, that was redeveloped because of the stadium being built. And actually, for those of you who are looking to move down to St. Louis, they actually have tax incentives available, and they do sliding scale. And they're even having a hard time with sliding scale around about $850 to rent a loft down there, even selling those right across from the stadium. So I think on the residential end, which was going to be part two of Ballpark Village, it's been said even by Bill DeWitt that it's not going to be done in the foreseeable future. I don't see that happening anytime soon. It probably won't happen at all. Especially
so the
when you can't sell them.
residential's essentially been completely thrown out.
It's pretty much been cut out.
That seems like it's affected less by the current state of the economy and more by developments downtown in a broader sense.
Right. It's by the current state of the economy, but also because of the amount of developments downtown, especially over in Washington Avenue, which haven't been selling either. There's really no point on building any more residential. But this is a problem right now across the U.S. You're right. Tampa's having the same issue. Dallas, to a certain extent, they can't sell the residential they've had. It was that if you build it, they will come theory, and right now, no one's really coming.
So as a result, then, what would you see within the Ballpark Village eventually? What images you get?
Well, according to Bill DeWitt and most public officials, and I would tend to agree, if it does happen, which right now, again, it's a very hard thing to push in this economic downturn, especially when, again, you have a public school system down there that's not accredited. So that's becoming another issue in itself. And some of the general backlash from the previous stadium, the Cardinals stadium being built, and then also the Rams. The Rams have a huge backlash, and it's not helping right now with the Rams trying to essentially renegotiate right now or possibly sell the team to like a Rush Limbaugh. So that's also, again, hurting the Cardinals, which previously hurt them on the stadium. But if there would be some sort of mainly shopping and you could say retail, restaurants, and also shopping facilities and some office space, because the whole issue with the downtown is, as you well know, is that's grade A office space. It's right there. It's very premier office space. You only have so much of it, and if you're going to anchor the downtown, you have to have a combination of office space, retail, and commercial. Now, the other thing you have to have, though, that everyone said, or you turn it into a 9-to-5 ghost town, is residential. Right. So the question is now, even if you do build this, are you going to be right back to the issue where before, where people go down to the stadium and they immediately or they go down to work and they immediately leave, or they go down to the stadium and then they immediately leave. Can't you just leave a Mike Shannon's, or can't you leave also the landing, which is, the landing's in trouble right now too. So if you already have these other areas and they're having a hard time attracting people from the Cardinals games, is it going to help, or is it just going to relocate and then possibly close down more businesses down already in kind of an area that's having a really hard time?
Yeah, in a broader sense, you're looking at that as part of urban renewal programs where they're always trying to talk about revitalize a downtown central city area, and you're trying to figure out from this exactly what works to do that and what doesn't.
Right, and you and I have talked a lot about this in the past, but essentially St. Louis was a donut, where you had most of poverty in the middle of St. Louis and a lot of the African Americans, and then on the outskirts you had a lot of, which happened in a lot of cities, which public managers talk about, and it's not an evil term, white flight. So you had a lot of white flight going on and went into the suburbs. And also with St. Louis not being part of the county, which is very unique, it's its own city. So when you had that happen in 1876, you had a lot of the movement out and towards the suburbs. And what you had was you had a big donut of poverty, and particularly of African Americans. And the big trend's been, since the 80s in particular, something called gentrification, which is a nice way of saying, take the people you don't like in that particular area and get rid of them, move them. So you take areas that are down, economic downturns, such as areas with strip clubs, such as areas with crime and so forth, and you say, okay, we're going to build a stadium there, and we're going to make it all better. But what you really do is you move those pockets of poverty to other areas. So if you look at St. Louis now, the demographics, and particularly on the poverty issues, you will see that there's still poverty in St. Louis, but it's moved to different sections. So you don't have that big donut effect anymore. Instead, what you'll have is maybe like over in the Central West End, where you'll have one street that's very nice, a gated community, and another street next to it, you'll have Martin Luther King Boulevard. Now, you can't tell me that there's a way to contain the people on Martin Luther King Boulevard so they bleed into the other areas. And that's very common not only in St. Louis, but other areas. So again, have you really economically revitalized the entire city, or have you economically revitalized one area by gentrifying it? The other issue that goes along with gentrification is historic preservation.